What's up, Nerf Nation? It's your boy Normatico here, and as you just saw, we did a comparison test between the Nerf Longshot Icon Series versus the classic Midnight Blue Icon, which I have modified. Now, the Icon Series, when it was released, people were excited because, yes, Nerf was returning to its roots from a blaster back in 2006 that was released as part of the N-Strike series and was brought up to date with upgraded internals to bring it to the Elite series. Unfortunately, the internals were modified to the point where all the old modifications for the Longshot that people knew were, well, no longer valid. And people were complaining that, oh my gosh, how are we going to be able to modify this Icon Series Longshot? Now, I have scoured because I was looking to see if it was even possible to mod these, and I have found one video online where somebody who attempted to do this, and I noticed, hey, the internals are different, but the shell is the same, so we can modify this. We just need to know how. Now, I'm going to let you in on a little secret. Of course, some of the modifications that you can do for the Longshot, some of the best ones, are the Alpha and Omega kits that used to be Orange ModWorks, but you can't find those anymore because Orange ModWorks kind of went defunct, and they don't really respond to emails. So if you order from them, you're lucky to get something within about 7 months or your money back. Now, what we do have, though, are the worker products, and it just so happens that currently, as of me filming this video, Out of Darts is doing a closeout sale trying to get rid of a lot of their old worker modification products, and score one for me. I got everything to assemble, not one, but two Longshots, the one that I modified before, and one for the Icon series that we're going to try to do this today. So brace yourself for a mod guide. Now, of course, no good modification is done without some safety glasses because I don't know what's in here, and I expect for a spring to maybe slap me in the face, and I'm going to have a bad day if I do that. So safety first, folks. Let's get this blaster opened up, and we're going to switch views once we get all of these screws out of here because there's a heck of a lot of screws inside of a Longshot. Now, before I switch views, I just want to do one thing really quick with you on camera here. To take the bolt off this thing, you are going to need a claw hammer. You just put the claw underneath it, and boom, out pops the cap. Take that out, and that's done. And now it's time to unscrew a whole lot of freaking screws. Okay, so we have all of the screws out of the Longshot now, and we have the shell opened up here. First of all, I want to show you how many screws we're looking at. That is quite a lot of screws. So there are two different screw sizes. You have these two long ones, and then the medium-sized screws that fit in the rest of the body. I will tell you that these screws, these are the fat-headed screws. Usually you can find them on a modulus or a demolisher, not necessarily the standard length, the standard width screws that you find in every other Nerf blaster. So remember, the two long ones go in these posts right here, and they go into the front of the blaster. The rest go everywhere else. I will also tell you that with these screws, depending on how your icon is set up, I should say your Longshot icon set up, you're going to put a lot of pressure with a zero Phillips head, size 0 Phillips head, because you might strip the screws if you don't apply a lot of pressure. They are a little bit hard to get out. Next thing I'm going to point to you is that, unfortunately, this is when they still had the springs with the actual attachment nubs. So you're going to want to make sure that you do not lose that, because otherwise any attachments that you put on here are not going to fit properly. Now, let's take a look at the internals. All in all, it looks pretty much the same as the original Longshot. The tube itself is a little bit different, and it seems smaller. And then you also have the little mechanism that holds the actual plunger rod. That does not cover like it used to, so that is a little bit different. And there's also some different colors here, at least compared to the Midnight Blue one. So we are going to be replacing almost everything in this blaster, with the exception of this part right here, which is the magazine holder. And I'm going to probably keep this door right here. But other than that, the rest, it's going out. So let's go ahead and start here. Move this jam door. I don't want to keep that jam door because that way we don't lose it. Now, the priming indicator, I took it out in my other Longshot. I'm going to see if I can manage to make it fit this time with this still in here. I like the idea of a priming indicator. Of course, we have our catch. This will be replaced. We have an all-metal one. I have all metal internals for this blaster, and then this is the priming indicator bar. This is what rotates when you prime the blaster, and red means you're good to go, black means it is not ready to go. So that's how that works. Now I am going to be replacing my trigger. So I'm going to take out the trigger spring. I'm also going to take out all of these locks as well. You're probably wondering why I have not thrown away any of these springs. It's because of the fact that I like to keep a collection of them, just in case I'm ever doing a modification and I have to find a spring, because one thing about modding is that you lose springs in your house like crazy, and it's easier to just have them in a bin, then you can just fish them out when you need to. And we have the dart gate here. Of course, it does come with a different spring. And that's a little spring right there. Probably use that later on in a strife build or something. And that's gonna go right there. That stays there. For now, we can now take out this. And that is the sled, plunger rod, the plunger, and the whole shebang. Now, what I might do is that I have another Longshot. I have the Longshot, the Z-Strike Longshot, the CS12. I might put this in there because I believe that this plunger system actually performs better than the CS12 system. So we might do that. Alternately, I do have one of the heavy plungers, the one that takes a lot of oomph to go ahead and prime. I might do a build like that as well, just to have it handy in case. Not sure. We'll figure it out. But I'm not going to disassemble the list completely. I'm just going to set this to the side. But I do need to take out this piece right here. I guess I do need to disassemble this. Okay. Well, let's figure this out, because I want to get this door off. But we'll get back to that. Now, these two screws have to come out, only because we're going to be getting rid of this tube itself and the breech system. This is garbage. I don't know if I can recycle this, maybe? I don't know. It's just a Nerf tube, you know. Why recycle that when I have a worker tube? Let's see. Away with you. Okay, now, even though I do have the worker tube, I like the fact of having a hidden plastic barrel. That way I can connect it directly to the actual attachment point here without having to cut off any of the attachment. If I was to fit the worker barrel through here, we'd run into the issue that this would feed all the way outside and I wouldn't be able to connect the attachments. So I want to be careful with that. Maybe I have a shorter worker tube that I can use. We will have to see if I do have that or not. So let's take a look. Of course, now that we have the blaster pretty much completely disassembled, let's take this piece out just for good measure here. This is what we should be looking like. Blank slate, with the exception of this little piece right here. So we're gonna wanna get our parts ready. Of course, as I said, I'm replacing this with metals. And just to give you a countdown, I want to say that I spent $8 on this tube set alone. That is aluminum. Now you'll notice that the hole is here. We're going to want to make sure that when we place this, the hole goes up on the top on the right side. Okay? Now, the next piece that we want is in this nice little long box. This, I believe, should have my barrel. Oh no, it's my spring. It's my spring set. And my rod. Now, I went ahead and got the actual metal skinny rod as opposed to the larger plastic one, only because this way I can use one of the 25N/retaliatoid springs. It is a longer spring, however, it's equal in power to the 18 kilogram spring, and it is a much easier prime. Myself, weighing 220 plus pounds, I have a hard time priming this blaster with the 18 kilogram spring or the 22 kilogram spring. I tried it one time, it just didn't work. Plus, this rod, it can withstand all of the impact. So we're gonna keep it that way. So, tube here. And then of course this is the gate in the back that holds the spring in and allows for this rod to go all the way out. When you push it back, that comes out like here and it gets stuck in the catch itself. So that is how that is going to work. All right, so after a brief pause, we're back and we have our parts here. So of course, this is the actual metal barrel that goes into the breech set, which is somewhere on my table. I just had here. I will find it in a moment. Oh, here it is. Of course, this does come with an Allen key that we need to use to open up this breech, which coincidentally was right next to the breech set. So I'm going to go ahead and get this opened up a little bit so we can fit that barrel in and go from there. I want to make sure, I'm going to go ahead and apply as much pressure as I can, just like that. That way the barrel goes in there and it creates a proper seal when the pusher is in.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Now that should be held secure in there. Let's give this a good tug. Nope, that's not going anywhere. So of course this is going to rest right here. Now I will tell you that this is not a drop-in kit. We are going to have to cut a little bit of this piece right here just to make sure that this fits in here. So I'm going to grab my snips and we are going to cut away. So really where you want to cut is right here by this ridge. You're going to cut a little rectangle. That way it fits in here. It is going to match that. So as you can see, I did that cut. I'm going to actually use a hobby knife now, and I'm going to try to clean this up a little bit. My hobby knife has obviously seen better days. As you can see, I've used this quite a bit. If there are any kids watching this, I will tell you to please be careful with these. These are very sharp. And the last thing you want to do is end up in a hospital because you're trying to follow one of my mod guides. I would hate for anybody to end up in a hospital because of this. Because of stuff like that. Now, I will tell you that part of my training for my 9-to-5 job does include first aid, so I am more than capable of bandaging myself up. That is another reason why you wear safety glasses, is because that piece of plastic just flew up and nearly hit me in the face. Yay. Glasses back on here. Alright, now, let's go ahead and test this. We're going to dump out this plastic shards from in here. And see if this fits in here properly. Okay, so that looks like it is going to fit in there just right. So that is how much we have to cut. Now we're going to want to cut the other side of the shell in the same exact way. I will take care of that before I put the shell back together, but just so you know what kind of cutting that is required, that should be the only cut you have to do for this kit. Of course, we are going to want to mount the pusher to the actual sled itself, and we should be able to do this very easily. One of these little containers, one of these baggies has a piece that I need. Alright, that is mounted in there. Now, I'm worried that this might come loose, to be honest, but let's see where that one comes when it happens. This is the right one for this size. Last time that this happened, what I did was I reverse mounted it. And that caused it to stick. Of course, all the instructions I see tell you not to do this, but if it works, it works. Like I said, if it works, it works. Dangerous stabby tool of pain. Let's put this away properly. Along with its little baby knife friends. And get this shell ready. Alright, so now one thing I wanted to show you, I brought it up earlier, is this is the actual plunger tube assembly that normally comes with this blaster. Now, normally this would feed in through here, and you would just do that. And this is the 18 kilogram spring that is really heavy and hard to prime. This is going to be the one that I'm going to put in the other barrel, or I should say in the other blaster, and that way I just have one heavy duty one, and then I have one regular one, and go from there. I'll tell you that this is a difficult prime. Not the biggest fan of this system itself, but some people like it. I call them masochists. Put this to the side for now. This one is much easier. Now, ideally, how this works is that you put this through here, and that is set up just like that. Now, because of the way that this is set up, we are going to want to use a flat-headed screwdriver. Thought I had a flat-headed screwdriver around here. There we go. We're going to want to take off this O-ring, and I'm going to put some Teflon tape underneath it. Now, take Teflon tape, wrap it around this sucker. Should have done this before I mounted it to the bolt sled, but whatever. I figure you all get to laugh at my mistakes. Get a couple layers of Teflon tape. That should be enough. And then we're going to snip it. Snip it good. Snip it like a man who doesn't want to have children anymore.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Alright, so powering back on. And then my favorite part, the lube. Super lube. You can be generous with the lube, it's fine. Want to lubricate this part thoroughly anyways. Go from there. Now, once that lubrication's done, that should smooth up nicely. Now, of course, the next part we're going to want to lube up is the actual aluminum tube itself. It's pretty smooth on the inside, but you still want to apply generous amounts of lubrication on here. Now, I always try to keep tissues handy at my workstation because it helps to dry off the lube. Fellas, am I right? You always want some tissues when you're using lube. Anyways, all right. Those of you who are past puberty know exactly what I'm talking about. Now, once you're done fingering these holes, I like to use the 2-finger method here. That should be nicely lubed up. Wipe my hands off, wipe my fingers off with lubrication, because I don't like sticky fingers or slippery fingers. Yeah. All right, and that's here. Now, same thing with this one. I'm going to want to put some Teflon tape on this side as well, at least on the first one. That creates that better seal. Place this sucker on here. You're also going to want to lubricate the rod head itself. I know somebody in the comment section is going to say, it's not Teflon tape, it's plumber's tape. Or it's not plumber's tape, it's Teflon tape. It's the same thing. It's not a magazine, it's a clip. It's a clip, it's not a magazine. It's not a clip, it's a magazine. I use the words interchangeably, sue me. Alright, now. I might do the other side as well, just for good measure. Now, one thing I'll tell you is that using too much Teflon tape might cause it to slow down a little bit. However, that is only the case in some blasters. In this one's case, actually, no, that might be a little bit too much Teflon tape. Famous last words, Normatico. Famous last words. Alright. Let's go ahead and actually take out a layer of this stuff. I don't know, let's see what. I would have thought that putting that much Teflon tape wouldn't have mattered because of the fact that there's usually a little bit of a gap for this thing to go through here, but if we take off the layer, we should be fine. So now we of course start lining things up the way they should go. This should fit in here. This is going to fit in here. That dark edge should go there. That sled has a rail right there that needs to go into. And that is how that works. Now, of course, we're going to want to have our catch. So we are swapping out the catch, which looks like this with a big hole. And of course, they do sell a metal version with that same dimension for the other plunger tube system or the plunger rod system, but this is the one that we want to use. Skinnier hole, that way it holds the actual rod. Now, putting this in, you're going to want to go ahead and actually push that forward so that the actual catch mechanism itself goes into this little slot, down. It's a little hard because that spring is really tough. So let's see if we can get this in here properly. It's taken me a few tries in the past. All right, now that catch spring should be resting there perfectly fine. Now what will probably give a hassle is the actual trigger mechanism. So this trigger mechanism, it's pretty simple. That's right here. And slips right in there. Now that spring has a lot of tension. Be careful, it will want to pop out. And if you wanted to put this lock back in, you could. I'm not going to. But I did want to get that door, which is here, which means now is when I actually have to disconnect this system to retrieve this door. Well, that took a lot longer than I thought it was going to take, but we're back and we have that piece off. Now, the problem that I'm going to run into now is that I need to take this piece off to mount this piece back on. So let me go ahead and do that real fast and I'll be back. All right, so now that we have this piece off, we can just mount this just like this. It's kind of hard to get in here, so I have to finagle that around. Get it in there. All right. Now, the way that I did that was that I flipped this upside down, slid it in, and twisted. Now we can put this back on the bolt sled itself. Okay. Now, putting this on, of course, you're going to want to make sure that you deal with this spring properly, angle that in correctly so that the spring rests on the mount itself, just like so. There's a little lip right here, you can't really see it on camera. Make sure that spring fits in there properly, or else you're going to have a hard time. And shoot. Well, I expected that. All right. Let's do this again. First you don't succeed, try again. Okay. All right, now let's do this one more time. This is why I prefer to modify flywheels instead of springers. Soldering is so much easier. Okay, now that is set there. All right, so the next thing I'm going to want to try this little piece right here. That spring needs to fit in there. That should technically fit.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Okay, so that technically should fit. That spring does allow it to move far enough back. So I want to test that because everyone always told me that you want to take that piece off. I don't buy it. I'm gonna set this down like so. The other shell is the metal dowel or rod that holds this piece down. So we're going to have to insert that right into the post. Should fit like that, I guess. Let's try it again. There we go. Alright, and that works just like that. Okay. Now, the next part, again, snap this in here. Now, this is the part that the spring rests in here. You'll see that there's these three little grooves, I guess, where this fits just like this. Now, when you're putting this inside, you want to make sure that it fits nice and snug there. Otherwise, when you put the spring in, it's going to want to fold in or fold upwards and spring outwards. That's still going to be an issue even with it snug. So when you put it back together, you're going to want to actually hold this down, close it, and then just press it firm real fast. So this is here. Let's get this out of here for now. Because of the fact that I have the gate here, I'm going to want to be careful when I close this thing up. We're going to go barrel. Spring. Fit that sucker right in there just like that. There's a lot of... That's what I was talking about. Okay. Oh, boy. God bless America. Let's do this differently, shall we? Catch needs to be in there properly. It is not. These screws to hold this down so this thing doesn't go flying everywhere anymore. All right, now so we are going to take this tube, shove it through here. Hopefully this will fit through without a problem. Because what I'm going to do now is I'm going to measure where I need to cut this tube at in order for it to fit properly into the blaster and be able to be hidden inside the attachment part. And that's that. That's where we're going to want to put that. Okay. Okay, I can see where I'm going to need to cut just a little bit more. But that right there is where I'm going to need to cut. So I'm going to grab a marker and mark that. I'm also going to snip this piece right here. So. So that should be enough of a trim from there. That fits down there, that fits there, that fits snug there. All right, so once we tighten this, this should be fine. But I still need to cut this barrel off because this will not fit inside of the attachment point. And I want to be able to use that. So we're going to mark this. this out. Now I can do this one of two ways. I can either use a pipe cutter, which is made for plastic, or I should say it's made for copper piping and aluminum as well, or I could use the Dremel tool and make a lot of noise, get some plastic shards everywhere. Now I am torn on to how to do this. I might do the Dremel itself, and that way I can just go ahead and clean up the rest, but we'll see how that works. Just like that. Have you fit right here, and there you go. That should fit in just like that. Just like that. And then, just to test this bad boy out. Oh, you punk. You son of a motherless goat. Alright. This does not fit through here. Well, that's something. Ain't that something, folks? Alright, so let's cut this piece off. Has to come off, and that's okay, because this is just tape that's put there to hold the tube tightly in there. Look at that, there's a hole there, but that's okay. I don't need all these layers of tape on here. Not for that, at least. I'm sure one of you wizards in the comment section is going to tell me, Norman, what you're doing is not good here, Normatico. Don't do that. But all I see is fishing wire here. And this was attached to something here. Oh, look at that. It even gave me an installation guide on the inside, huh? Adjustable scar installation guide. Well, I'm going to be doing an adjustable scar. What I'm going to do, though, is tape up these holes. My own tape. And make it so this can fit I want it to fit. very well. Alright, so I see a section here where I put too many tape layers on here. I just need to unwrap this and rewrap right about there where it's telling me there's too much tape. Alright, so we just put one layer of tape around here and thinner layers back here, and you can see that it fits. It gets snug, but then you just push it, and then that is that. So that's gonna work. Clean up the space again. That was a bigger pain in the tuchus than I thought it was gonna be, but okay. Alright, so we now have this here. Set you back to how you need to be. That's how that's got to be. Oh, not really. Okay, now. So right about now, what I'm going to want to do is I'm going to want to grab the other side of the shell, trim out this section, and then we can go ahead and put this bad boy back together completely. So we have this shell here. Now, much like this side, I use this guidepost as a guidepost as to where to trim. Because now we're going to want to grab all of our screws, and we're going to start screwing things back together where we can. Now I'll tell you that these two silver screws you're going to want to keep handy, because if you do not screw these back in, for some reason this will not fire properly, even though it fits tightly into the shell. I've done this before. Alrighty, now, okay, so this part's in. Now comes the part where we want to take this out again. Our bolts let in. Make sure that fits where it needs to go. Flat bar, guide that spring in where I want it, and because that spring's not going to want to fit in there by itself, doesn't want to play nicely. Stupid spring. Alright, that bolt sled fits in there. Make sure it's in the guide rail. It is in the guide rail. That seems to want to work like that. We're going to put our jam door back in where it belongs. Probably the biggest pain of this build. Putting the jam door properly, because the sled for the worker kit doesn't necessarily want to play nice with the jam door sometimes. You can try to cut the sled piece off, the bit that drags the door, but if you do, you can run into the issue where it just doesn't work properly. So all right, we got that. That is set up there. That is working the way it needs to work. Get this spring back in its place. Okay. Famous last words. Okay. That spring seems to be in place. That doesn't seem to be jamming anything. Hopefully this catches with this here. I know people sometimes remove it, but I really want to keep that priming indicator on as much as possible. Okay. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Pray for me, Mary, as I try to put this thing back together properly. Let's see if we can. Oh, I got you to catch it there. All right. Nope, we're not all the way down. Come on, get in there. There we go. Now, worker's instructions will tell you that you want to have 2 people when you do this. I've done it before with 1 person. Sometimes G-Rex will help me out, but he is not available right now, and that's okay. G-Rex is my dedicated spring finder whenever things bounce around the house. In my mod room. Go find him for me. He's such a good helper. This should that. Let's get that in there. Get that in there. Get that in there. Alright. So we should have all poop. Forgot this piece. Alright, let's try this again, shall we? Okay, so that slides. This slides. Interesting. All right, so here's what I'm running into is that these little grooves right here are running into the bolt sled now. So let's see what I can do about this. Bring back up to where it belongs. Okay, so apparently we got it to close properly this time. And we can start screwing things in. Let's get the back screwed in. I didn't measure properly, so I am going to have to cut just a little bit off of here so I can fit this tube all the way back there. That's not what I wanted to do, but let's see how I can work this out. Alright, so I had to reopen up the blaster only because of the fact that this priming indicator was causing too much pressure back here, so the catch was not catching properly, which means it's impossible to prime the blaster. So that part's gonna have to go out, I guess. Kind of stinks, but it is what it is. I might leave this bar in here though, just for grins and giggles, because I think it's funny. But it'll just be a pointless piece. But that's okay. I'll make it look like it's always primed and ready to go. Just like so. Now, let's put this spring back in here where it belongs. What I am going to do now, though, is that I have this open, I'm going to trim this down just a tad bit more so that this fits all the way in there. Okay, so change of plans. Given how short we have to cut this barrel, we're just going to use the original barrel, slip that sucker right back in there, and the solution should present itself pretty easily, because that won't go anywhere. That rust there. I guess I just went. So if I'm looking at everything correctly, this does look like it's ready to go back together now. Let's okay, so after a couple of attempts of putting it back together, we actually have a blaster that is now back together again. Like I warned you, when you put this thing together, that spring wants to pop up, and that is what happened to me a couple of times. I managed to actually just squash it down long enough to close the shell, and it worked just fine. I did have to get rid of the actual priming indicator, so that is just decorative back here right now. And the door itself does work. You will see this here shortly. And I went ahead and 3D printed this muzzle adapter for it. Now, with this, I can actually run it as just the core blaster, or I could just take the muzzle brake off completely, slap on the extender, and there you go. You have the quintessential sleeper. Doubly so when I put the actual attachment on. And there you go. It looks like it is stock. Now, there are ways that you can actually modify the magazines. You can use the 6-dart magazine and turn them into half darts. I might 3D print a part like that so I can actually truly run this thing and make it an absolute sleeper. But as you see, I have a Magpul that is worker, and it is for half darts. Now, priming this thing, because of the fact that I use the 25N dart, I can just go ahead and do this, and that is primed. Now, that looks like a heavy prime, but I can do it one-handed if I need to. We just load this up back here, brace, and that is ready to go. And as you can see, the jam door does operate, and it does close as need to, and then we just fire. That thing is powerful. Let's do one more chronograph test using the new Longshot Icon Edition with the worker kit. can see, a drastic improvement on the Icon Longshot, and it is modifiable using the worker kits. So all the people that were saying, oh no, you can't modify this. Yes, you can. You just have to think outside the box and spend a little bit of money. I spent maybe, I want to say $55 total on modification parts to take this blaster into Caliburn-esque levels. Thank you for watching Secondhand Blasters. Until next time, keep on blasting.